Ranked Season 56 just dropped, but hold your horses before jumping into Ranked. The new ban list doesn't go live until August 5th, which means those toxic meta decks are still running at full power. So while we wait for the nerfs to hit, I'm going to break down exactly how you can counter every single one of them, step by step, so you are fully prepared. Kewl Tune. The way this deck works is different than other synchro decks. If a monster card on your opponent's field is used as synchro material, one tuner in their hand can be used as the other material. So try to destroy the monster they control before they synchro summon using cards like DPE or the Virtues. Beware though, they can chain with Kewl Tune synchro since it's a quick play spell, so always be cautious. When Kewl Tune monsters are sent to the graveyard as synchro materials, they can activate additional effects. That means if we prevent them from going to the graveyard, they lose a ton of power and won't be able to touch cards in our hand, deck or extra deck. That's why we banish effects like Dark Blow, Dimension Shifter, Dimensional Fissure, and Macrocosmos. Really hurt this deck. Since we play heroes, our main priority should always be summoning Dark Blow and protecting him at all costs against Kewl Tune. That Banishment Floodgate effect also cripples Kewl Tune RS. It won't gain any attack since there are no tuners in the graveyard. On top of that, your opponent won't be able to banish a tuner from their graveyard to negate a card effect on our field either. Cards like RS and B2B can really give you a hard time if you're playing Synchro or Xyz decks, since they can manipulate the levels of your monsters. However, it doesn't hurt decks that rely on fusion or link summons, such as heroes. That's why as hero players, we can completely ignore that part of their strategy. When it comes to the Handtraps, Ash Blossom can stop their one-card combos like Sui, Synchro, and Overtake. But since they have so many different ways to search cards from the deck, Ash Blossom will only slow them down. That's why Draw Lockbird is much better for shutting down their search engine. Beware though, they can activate cards like Synchro or Vision during the draw phase, since they are quick play spells. And Draw Lockbird has a drawback. It cannot be activated during the draw phase. Maxi is one of the best bets against Kewl Tune since the deck relies heavily on special summoning. Both Mulcharmi Fovolos and Purulia are effective, but your opponent can still prevent you from drawing too many cards by simply passing their turn and continuing their summons during your turn instead. Cards like Imperm aren't always great either. They can easily dodge it with Kewl Tune Synchro, and Imperm can't even negate their ability to use a tuner from their hand because that's a condition, not an effect. Nibiru isn't as strong or popular anymore. They can easily negate it with Zelen or simply stop their play on the 4th summon. Ghost Bell definitely works against this deck, but remember, unlike Ash Blossom, which negates the effect, Ghost Bell directly negates the activation. Surprisingly, Ghost Ogre is also super effective against Kewl Tune. You can either destroy their field spell or destroy the monster they control on the field. However, only run Ghost Ogre and Ghost Bell if you have extra space in your deck, so consider them situational hand traps. As for board breakers, Super Polymerization is meta right now and can really hurt Kewl Tune because all of their monsters are tuners. That means you can easily fusion summon Thesus since it only requires 2 tuner monsters on the field. Plus, they can't respond to Super Polymerization with any of their quick play spells, which is just the cherry on top. Branded. The deck generates endless value by sending cards to the graveyard to trigger their powerful search and recycling effects during the end phase. They grind you down through constant resource recursion as long as their cards actually hit the graveyard. That's why banish floodgates like Darkglow, Dimension Shifter, Dimensional Fissure, and Macrocosmos completely shuts them down. DD Crow can also help slow down their plays by sniping key targets. On top of that, your opponent can't even activate the Fallen the Virtues. Since cards are banished instead of going to the graveyard, they can't fulfill the required cost to activate it in the first place. Fallen of Albaz is one of their key cards because it can use our own monsters as fusion material. To prevent this, you should destroy or banish it the moment its effect activates. Since Albaz must be used as one of the materials for its own fusion summon, removing it from the field completely disrupts their play. On top of that, they need Albaz to bring out their ultimate boss monster, Mirror Jade, so making him your primary removal target is crucial. Speaking of Mirror Jade, its quick effect Banish can completely block if a Banish Floodgate is active on the field. Sending a fusion monster from their extra deck to the graveyard is a cost, so if cards are banished instead, they can't even activate this effect in the first place. However, beware of its second effect. If Mirror Jade leaves the field, it will destroy all your monsters during the end phase. To play around this, try to finish the game before the end phase. Alternatively, use monsters with built-in destruction protection, like Shining Neos Wingman, or rely on DPE since he can easily resurrect himself back if he gets destroyed. If you happen to play cards like Starlish Photon Blast Dragon, it can also protect the rest of your board from being destroyed by Mirror J's board wipe. Unfortunately, we cannot do much about super polymerization directly, since cards and effects cannot be activated in response to its activation. However, we can still shape our end board against it. Make sure not to leave too many Dark Monsters on the field, as your opponent can easily use them for a Predaplant Fusion Monster. They can also use your Light Monsters to fusion summon cards like Albion, or even the dragon that devours the Dogma. Speaking of that dragon, this card can be quite annoying to deal with. While an Aslesia monster is on the field or in either graveyard, it is unaffected by other card effects. To play around this, make sure to either banish any Aslesia card in the graveyard, or prevent them from hitting the graveyard in the first place with continuous banish effects like Darklow. When it comes to Handtraps, Ash Blossom can definitely slow down their plays, especially when used on Branded Fusion. However, Branded Fusion isn't their only priority anymore, as they now have multiple combo starters like Branded in High Spirits and Fallen the White Dragon, so don't rely on Ash too heavily. Maxi, Huvolos, and Purulia are certainly helpful, but Branded doesn't rely on heavy special summoning sequences like other combo decks. They can easily set up a solid board within just a few summons and continue interacting on your turn. On the other hand, Draw Lockbird isn't effective because Branded doesn't add cards from their deck to their hand continuously. Similarly, Nibiru is rarely impactful since they can easily play around the 5th summon or quickly recover even if they get hit by it. Ghostspell and Imperm are great options, but don't expect them to completely stop their plays. Your best bet is to negate their initial combo starter and pray they don't have a follow-up. Ironically, Super Polymerization can be used against them if you are running targets like Mirror Jade or Dogmatika bosses in your extra deck. Alternatively, you can summon Secretarian Dragon to completely shut down all dragon and spellcaster effects on the field. Radiant Typhoon. Their monsters can special summon themselves from the hand if your opponent has Mystical Space Typhoon in their graveyard, or if you control no spells and traps. When they go first, you cannot stop them from spatial summoning since you control no spells and traps on your field. However, make sure to set at least 2 spells or traps when going first. If you only set one, they can easily pop it with MST and start spatial summoning. Setting multiple cards ensures you keep at least one on the field to completely block their plays. When going first, be careful with your quick play spells. If your opponent has Crossy or Phoenix in hand, activating a quick spell allows them to spatial summon those monsters from their hand to either search or bounce cards from your field. As a follow-up, if you activate another card or effect while they control a Wind Master, they can spatial summon Shinya from their hand to bounce all face-up monsters back. So if you know you are playing against Radiant Typhoon, avoid blindly activating quick play spells without caution. Since this deck relies heavily on its graveyard, especially having MST in the graveyard, banishing their resources with cards like Darklow, Dimension Shifter, or DD Crow is crucial. Radiant Typhoon Mandate is the reason why MST essentially gains a negate effect. However, this negation can only trigger once per chain. This means if you chain another quick effect to it, they won't be able to resolve their negate effect anymore. Alternatively, you can simply destroy Mandate upon activation, as continuous traps must remain on the field to apply their effects. If you want to get rid of Mandate permanently, banishing it is your best option. Most Radiant Typhoon players run only a single copy, and since Vororum can only recover MST from the graveyard, banishing Mandate completely shuts down that line of play. Most of the time, your main goal is to stop them from either searching for Crossy or searching with Crossy, as her effects adds 1 Radiant Typhoon card and 1 MST from the deck to their hand. Sven, Eldum, and Chant are the primary searches in the deck, so make sure to negate them with Ash Blossom or Imperm. Stopping their main searches early can shut down their plays entirely, but negating Crossy's search effect should always be your highest priority. Lastly, remember to keep at least 1 spell or trap on your field if you plan to destroy Crossy by battle or card effect. If they are running a Zoodiac engine, they will try to summon Broadbull or Invoker. These two monsters act as the main bridge between Radiant Typhoon and Zoodiac, so make sure to stop these searches with Ash Blossom or Imperm whenever possible. However, do not waste Imperm when they detach Ratpier to activate its gained effect on an Xyz monster. They can simply summon Tiger Mortar, attach Ratpier back as material, and activate that same special summon effect once again through Tiger Mortar, since it is not a hard once per turn. Maxi and Purulia are super effective against them, because they constantly spatial summon from the hand. Volos also gets a lot more value if they are running the Zoodiac engine. The Roll Lockbird shuts down the deck really hard, although the Zoodiac engine can still play under the roll without an issue. Nibiru isn't very effective if they are planning pure Radiant Typhoon. If they also run the Zoodiac engine, they can easily negate your Nibiru with Utopic Drago Future. Finally, board breakers like Super Polymerization don't hurt this deck very much either. Since they control monsters with different attributes, you won't have many viable targets to fuse their important cards away. And that wraps it up. Thanks for tuning in, and good luck with your duels.